Year 2147, and the moon was silent, except for the endless hum of the deep space antenna standing like a lonely tower under the black sky, its silver surface catching the cold light of Earth far away. Dr. Elias Vance stood in the control room, his eyes fixed on the stream of data flooding the monitors, each line glowing green against the darkness. The signal had arrived just after midnight, a thin whisper at first buried in cosmic noise, then growing sharper, clearer, until every sensor confirmed. It was not random static, not interference, but a deliberate transmission. The technicians around him were tense, breathing shallow as the repeating words began to emerge, not in any alien language, but in perfect, unmistakable English. Your fate is sealed. The voice was mechanical, stripped of emotion, yet it carried a weight that made the air feel heavier, as if the sound itself bent gravity. They checked the origin again and again. The data pointed in one impossible direction. Proxima Centauri, 4.2 light-years away. The engineers muttered about beacons and deep space repeaters, but Vance was already thinking ahead, his mind turning over the encryption signature hidden beneath the words, and there it was, a pattern only human military. Systems used a cipher locked away from public knowledge for over a century. The signal had not come from aliens. It had come from humanity itself, or something that had once been human. He said nothing to the team. He only leaned closer to the console, his fingers tracing the hidden numbers buried in the transmission. The numbers shifted, formed columns, and then resolved into a steady countdown, 72 hours until it reached 0, the moment his eyes confirmed it. His heartbeat slowed, not sped, up, because now he knew this was not a warning, not a message asking for help. It was a sentence in the political halls on Earth. Chaos spread faster than the message itself. The United Nations Security Directorate called emergency meetings while military satellites shifted in orbit, scanning for incoming fleets. News networks broadcast the phrase on endless loops. Analysts argued if it was a prank, an enemy psyop, or proof that intelligent life had finally contacted humanity. Religious leaders called it prophecy. Some declared the end of days, but the truth was stranger and far colder. The transmission was not arriving through normal space, it was bypassing the flow of time. Oracle. The government's secret AI confirmed it, using classified quantum analysis. The signal was being sent backward in time from centuries ahead. No one wanted to admit what that meant. But Vance understood clearly this was a voice from the future, a future that had already decided humanity's fate. He found himself outside the dome of the lunar base, staring up at the infinite black. The Earth hung there, blue and glowing, peaceful and small. It looked so fragile from here, like it could vanish with one breath. He imagined those words echoing not just across space, but across the centuries, reaching back to a humanity still unprepared, still believing it had control of its destiny. He knew better. Destiny was an illusion built by those who survived long enough to write it. His comlink buzzed, and the voice of Captain Aria Holt cut through, sharp and controlled. "We need you in the secure chamber." Now he followed the narrow corridors deep underground where the lunar rock pressed close on all sides in the chamber. A dozen officials and military officers argued over strategy, their faces pale in the white light. Holt met his eyes with that steady, unwavering look she had whenever the room spun out of control. "Tell them what you found." Vance told them about the cipher, about the human origin. And the countdown, the words hung in the air, heavy enough to smother the noise. One general slammed a fist on the table, demanding interception, fleets around Proxima. Another said it was impossible even at light speed, and Vance finally told them the last truth. The signal isn't traveling through space. It's coming from the same coordinates in every possible future, which means no matter what we do, someone or something in our own bloodline sends it. The silence afterward was like a physical wall pressing in on every chest. Holt broke it with a single question. "Can we stop it?" Vance wanted to say yes, but the image of the countdown ticking toward 0 burned in his mind. The numbers did not care about hope or effort or courage. They only cared about time, and time was already almost gone as he left the chamber. The message began to play again over the station's comm speakers. Not for the public, not for comfort, just for them. Each syllable cold, precise. Your fate is sealed. The words chased him down the corridor into the lift, into the isolation of his quarters, where he sat in the dim light, staring at the moon's barren horizon, and thought about who or what might be watching him right now. From centuries ahead, perhaps they were smiling. Perhaps they had no faces at all. In either case, the future had spoken, and it had no intention of changing its mind. The signal kept coming every few minutes, as if the sender wanted to burn the words into the mind of every living human. Your fate is sealed. The voice echoing through the moon base's corridors, like a curse Dr. Elias Vance had not slept since the night. It arrived. His mind was locked on the numbers hidden beneath the message. The countdown now showed 60 hours left, each digit changing with the slow inevitability of falling sand on Earth. Panic was no longer just political. It was spreading. Into the streets, people rioted outside government buildings demanding to know what was coming. Some claimed the message meant war. Others whispered it was an extinction order. The United States-European Federation and Chinese hegemony formed an emergency body called the Fate Council to coordinate a response. In theory, they were united in reality. They were locked in a silent power struggle over who would control the investigation and whatever weapon or truth was waiting at the source. In the council's first meeting, an intelligence officer revealed something classified. A fragment of the signal had been decoded by Oracle. It was not just words, it carried compressed visual data, blurry shapes flashing across the screen cities. Burning seas boiling the sky lit with unnatural fire, and between the chaos the outline of colossal ships blotting out the stars. But when the shapes became clear, Vance felt the cold sweep through him. They were not alien vessels. They were human, built more advanced than anything in the 22nd century, but undeniably human. The council erupted in argument, accusing rival nations of hiding secret fleets. Holt leaned toward Vance, her voice low enough for only him to hear. If those ships are ours, and they're attacking us, what does that make this message, a warning or a declaration? Vance's answer was quiet and certain. A declaration. Someone from the future is telling us the trial is over. The verdict has been passed. Holt requested a covert task force to trace the true origin beyond Proxima Centauri. The data suggested the signal was being relayed from somewhere else. First, something between Earth and that distant star. To get there quickly, they would need technology, no government. Ship possessed, which was when Marcus Cade entered the picture. Billionaire, industrialist, space magnate, and opportunist. Cade's face appeared on the council's secure screen, with his usual smug half-smile offering the one thing they lacked: speed. His private vessel, the Eidolon, used experimental quantum slipstream drives capable of reaching deep space in days instead of decades. The price was steep. Cade demanded exclusive salvage rights to anything they found and complete immunity for any laws broken along the way. The council hesitated, but with the countdown ticking, they agreed reluctantly. Holt, Vance, and a small crew boarded the Eidolon within 12 hours. The ship was sleek obsidian black, its hull humming with contained energy. As they left lunar orbit, the signal grew stronger, sharper, almost as if aware they were moving toward it. Vance monitored fluctuations in its frequency, seeing strange distortions like reflections on water. The ship's AI reported that the source was moving not stationary as expected, and that movement was impossible at sublight speeds. The only conclusion was that it was anchored in a distorted region of space-time 2 days into the journey. The distortions intensified. Alarms blared. The Eidolon, dropping out of slipstream without warning in front of them, hung a void darker than the surrounding space, an artificial singularity. The ship's sensors screamed warnings about gravitational shear. Cade's grin faltered for the first time. Holt asked if it was a trap. Vance said softly. It's an invitation against his advice. Cade took them closer. The edges of the black hole shimmered like a mirror, and then without transition, they were inside, light twisted into impossible shapes. And time lost its rhythm. Seconds stretched into minutes, minutes collapsed into heartbeats. Vance glimpsed flashes in the distortion. Two Earths, one green and peaceful, another choked in smoke and flame. A figure appeared suspended in the void, its features obscured by shifting light, yet its voice was clear and human. You should not have come now. They know where you are before they could speak. The vision dissolved, replaced by the sudden arrival of multiple warships emerging from the singularity, their hulls glinting with a cold silver light. The Eidolon's scanners confirmed what Vance had already guessed. They were human ships advanced beyond comprehension, and they were already locking weapons. Holt gave the order to evade. Cade threw the ship into a desperate spin as energy beams cut through the dark. One grazed the hull, sending tremors through every deck. The warships moved with eerie precision, like predators playing with prey, and in that moment, Vance knew two things. The first was that these ships were from the future. The second was that the countdown was not for when they would arrive, it was for when they would finish the job. The Eidolon tore free of the Singularity's pull engines, screaming in protest while streaks of light bent unnaturally around its hull. Holt's hands moved with surgical precision across the controls. Her jaw clenched as she dodged another burning lance of energy that sliced past their starboard wing. The enemy ships did not chase like a panicked fleet. They moved with terrifying patience, tightening their formation as if certain the prey would tire. Soon Cade barked for more speed, but the drives were already at redline. The ship's AI, cold and emotionless, reported that the pursuers were matching their velocity effortlessly. Vance stayed at his console, scanning the enemy signatures, and his worst fears solidified. Their engine cores pulsed in patterns identical to quantum drives, but not the drives of this era. These were refined, perfected and capable of folding not just space, but moments of time itself. The Eidolon could not outrun them. It could only vanish from their sight, and Cade had just the trick. Deep within the smuggler's archives was a device outlawed by every spacefaring government, a temporal veil projector designed to hide a vessel by bending local time. The risk was enormous. Using it near a singularity could rupture the ship's core, but Holt ordered it activated. A deep bass hum shook the deck's reality. Around the Eidolon shimmered, and in an instant, the pursuing ships were gone, or perhaps the Eidolon was gone from them. The hum faded, and the void outside was still. Vance exhaled, but did not relax, because the signal was still there, strong, insistent. Your fate is sealed. Now it came not from behind, but ahead, pulling them toward a small rogue planet drifting in the darkness, with no sun of its own. Sensors revealed a single structure on its frozen surface, an angular spire of black stone older than human history. The coordinates matched the next relay in the transmission chain. Holt brought them down in a storm of ice particles, landing on a jagged plateau. The air outside was thin and laced with metallic dust. Their breath crystallized. Instantly, as they stepped out into the dead silence, the spire loomed above them, its surface rippling faintly like liquid stone at the base. They found an opening perfectly carved as if waiting for them inside. The temperature rose unnaturally, the walls covered in faint glowing script that shifted when looked at directly. Vance realized it was neither alien nor human, but something in between, like a language designed for more than one kind of mind. At the heart of the chamber sat a crystalline core humming with stored energy. It pulsed in sync with the repeating message. Vance reached for his instruments. But before he could begin scanning, a voice filled the chamber, different from the transmission, yet carrying the same cold certainty. You are not the first to stand here. You will not be the last. A shape formed in the light, a humanoid figure wearing armor that reflected no light at all. Its face concealed behind a smooth mask. Holt demanded to know who it was. The answer came without hesitation. "We are the custodians, the last architects of humanity's survival and its executioners. You live in the shadow of your own history." The figure stepped closer, each movement unnervingly precise in 5 centuries. "Humanity will consume every living world within reach. It will spread like a plague that cannot be contained, and so it will be contained by ending it before it begins." Holt spat the word genocide. The figure tilted its head. "Not genocide, correction. The difference is only one of perspective." Vance stepped forward, his voice low. "You sent the message from the future, didn't you?" The figure nodded. "It is sent every cycle to ensure the root remains severed, but your presence here is unusual." Before Vance could ask what, that meant the crystalline core flared blinding light, filling the chamber. The custodian dissolved into static, and an alarm screamed in Holt's helmet. The Eidolon was under attack again outside. In the frozen darkness, the future warships had returned. Emerging like ghosts from nowhere, their weapons charging with silent menace, Holt and Cade sprinted for the ship, Vance following close behind as the first energy beam struck the plateau, sending shards of ice into the air. The Eidolon lifted off, just as another blast tore through the spire, reducing it to molten fragments in the chaos. Vance glanced back and saw for a fraction of a second something impossible within the debris, a second black spire perfectly intact, standing where the first had been, as if time itself had rewound. Just for it, the message came again louder than before. "Your fate is sealed." And for the first time, Vance felt certain the voice was not simply informing them. It was watching them, measuring them, deciding whether they were worth the effort to erase at all. The Eidolon broke through the upper layers of the rogue planet's thin atmosphere, its hull scorched and trembling from near hits that would have split a lesser ship in 2. Holt's face was set in grim determination as she pushed the engines beyond safety limits, the stars stretching into lines around them. But the warships didn't follow. Not immediately. They lingered in the void below like hunters, letting prey believe it had escaped, their sleek silhouettes fading into the dark, until even the ship's sensors could no longer trace them. Vance sat in the analysis bay, the glow from his monitors painting his face in cold light. He was replaying every scan from the spire, comparing it to human engineering across centuries. The results were undeniable. The spire was old, impossibly old, but the crystalline core's resonance matched human-designed quantum transponders. The technology wasn't alien at all. It was human. Or at least it began as human before it evolved into something else. That realization settled over him like a weight. The ships that had attacked, the message itself, the relay spire, they weren't the work of some other species. They were us. Holt came in, pulling off her gloves. "Tell me I'm wrong," she said. "Tell me those things out there aren't human." Vance looked up, his voice quiet but absolute. "They're human, just not from now. 5 centuries ahead, maybe more. We're fighting our own descendants." The silence after that felt heavier than the gravity outside. Cade entered next, brushing frost from his jacket, wearing that half-smile he used when he thought everyone else was overreacting. "So, we're in a time war?" That explains the creepy, fate-sealed voicemail. Vance ignored him and continued. "They call themselves custodians. They've decided that somewhere in their history, our future, humanity becomes a threat to the galaxy. They're erasing us before we can reach that point." He paused, thinking of the figure in the spire. "This isn't random. They've done it before, again and again, in multiple timelines. We're just another iteration." Holt slammed her palm on the console. "Then we change the timeline. We fight back." But Vance shook his head. "Changing the future is dangerous. We might succeed, But if we change the wrong thing, the paradox could wipe us out instantly, like we never existed. Cade leaned against the wall, his smirk fading. So our choices are roll over and die now, or gamble on maybe dying instantly. I love our odds. The ship's AI interrupted, its voice calm but edged with urgency. Incoming contact, 3 signatures, vector intercept. The screen lit up with the shapes of the warships again, sliding into reality from no visible origin. Their arrival was silent, almost graceful, like the closing of a trap. Holt ordered evasive maneuvers, but Vance studied the readings with narrowed eyes. The ships weren't opening fire. They were escorting, herding them toward a point in space. They're not trying to kill us, Vance said suddenly. Not yet. They're trying to push us somewhere. Where? Holt demanded. The answer appeared on the navigation map, an empty sector except for a single object. It wasn't a planet or a station. It was another spire. They want us to see something, Vance muttered, or to make sure we end up exactly where they want us to be. Reluctantly, Holt let the Eidolon drift on the vector, ready to break, away if the trap closed too tightly. The spire grew larger in the forward viewport, black and perfect against the star field, floating in the void with no anchor. No planet, no moon, just emptiness. When they were close enough, a comm channel opened without request. A voice spoke, not mechanical, not cold, but human and weary, like someone who had fought too long. You cannot win this. You cannot escape it. The message is not a threat. It is the truth. Every attempt to resist has ended the same way. The root must be cut before the tree can grow. Holt's voice was steel. We're not a disease. The reply came almost with pity. Every disease says the same. The transmission ended, and the spire lit with a pulse that rippled across space. The countdown on Vance's console dropped, from 47 hours to 12. They've accelerated it, Vance whispered. Whatever's coming, it's almost here. Holt turned to him, eyes hard. Then we find a way to stop them before that clock hits 0. But in the back of Vance's mind, one truth gnawed at him. They weren't fighting an alien invasion. They were fighting the inevitable momentum of their own future, and that future had no intention of letting them survive. The countdown ticked relentlessly in the corner of every screen on the Eidolon, its digits glowing like a heartbeat. 11 hours, 53 minutes. No one spoke for a long time after the spire's pulse faded. Even Cade, usually eager to fill silence with bravado, kept his mouth shut. Holt stood at the center of the command deck, her eyes locked on the cold stretch of stars ahead. We find their weapon. We take it out, she said finally, her voice low but carrying the kind of certainty that left no room for debate. Vance's gaze stayed fixed on his data feed. The acceleration of the countdown wasn't just symbolic. The custodians had shifted, their strike window forward, by almost 2 days. That meant they were close to their endgame. And when the readings resolved into a clear image, his stomach tightened. They're not coming for Earth, he said. They're coming for the sun. Holt turned toward him, her voice sharp. That doesn't make sense. Why not hit Earth directly? Because destroying the sun is cleaner, Vance replied. No need for fleets, no resistance. Collapse. It into a singularity. And the entire system is gone in minutes. No survivors. No history left to alter. The bridge went silent. Outside the viewport, space stretched endlessly, black and indifferent. How do we stop it? Holt asked. Vance hesitated, then brought up a star map. There's an alien relay station, ancient, predating humanity, on a dead planet near the system's edge. Its core can send a signal back through time, same as the custodians. If we can send a counter-signal 1 second before theirs, it might overwrite their timeline and erase the strike order entirely. Cade leaned forward. And where exactly is this magic button? Vance highlighted a small red point on the map. Here, 4 hours away. If we push the drives beyond, safe levels. Cade grinned. Safe levels are overrated. The Eidolon surged forward, engines screaming as the slipstream drive fought to stay coherent. The journey was a gauntlet. Twice, custodian patrols appeared from nowhere, their ships sliding in and out of existence like phantoms. Holt wove through, asteroid fields and gravitational eddies, every maneuver a calculated risk. In the mess hall between shifts, the crew moved like ghosts, their faces drawn. 11 hours became 8, then 6. At the 4th ambush, betrayal struck. While Holt and the helm crew were engaged in evasive maneuvers, Cade disappeared from the bridge. Vance found him in the comms bay, sending a tight beam transmission on an encrypted frequency. "What are you doing?" Vance demanded. Cade didn't even flinch. "Making a deal. We can't win this, Vance. The custodians offered me survival, us. If we play along, they said they can reinsert us into a safer branch of the timeline. You're selling out the entire species." "I'm saving myself," Cade said flatly. "And maybe you, if you stop playing hero." Holt arrived mid-argument. She didn't yell, she didn't threaten. She simply drew her sidearm and fired. The shot echoed in the confined space, and Cade crumpled without a word. "No more delays," Holt said coldly, stepping over his body. By the time they reached the dead planet, the countdown had dropped below 3 hours. The alien relay station rose from the frozen crust like the bones of some impossible creature, spires twisted and fused as if shaped by thought rather than tools. They landed on the surface under a sky that looked bruised, lit faintly by the dying glow of a distant star. The air was thin and tasted metallic. Holt and Vance moved quickly through the winding corridors of the station, the walls alive with shifting patterns. It was as if the place knew why they had come. At the core, they found the control nexus, a vast chamber dominated by a single crystal monolith humming with dormant power. Vance began calibrating the interface, hands moving over alien glyphs that responded like they'd been waiting for him. The custodian's message was still out there, seconds from delivery in their own time. All they had to do was overwrite it. The Eidolon's AI patched into the relay's systems, feeding it the counter-signal's code. "Transmission ready," it said. "Power levels at 80%. Holt checked her chrono. 2 hours, 21 minutes. "Can it send before the custodians?" "Yes," Vance said. "If nothing interrupts us." The chamber trembled as if answering him. Holt's comm crackled with the AI's voice. "Incoming signatures. 6 custodian ships inbound. Estimated arrival, 4 minutes. Vance's hands flew faster. "We don't need to fight them. Just buy enough time for the signal to go through." Holt drew her weapon and faced the corridor. "Then we make our last stand here." Somewhere above them, the soundless warships slid into the planet's sky like shadows, closing in. The countdown kept ticking. The alien relay station shook as the custodian ships descended through the thin atmosphere, their silent engines warping the sky into shimmering patterns. Dust rained from the vaulted chamber ceiling as the crystal monolith before Vance pulsed. With growing energy, the counter-signal building toward release. The countdown on his wrist display read 1 hour and 59 minutes. He knew the custodian's strike wouldn't just destroy the sun, it would erase every trace of human existence from the timeline, leaving only silence where Earth had been. Holt stood at the doorway, weapon drawn, her eyes locked on the dark corridor beyond. The sound of approaching footsteps, too precise, too synchronized to be human, echoed through the stone passage. "How much longer?" she asked without looking back. Vance's voice was tight. 7 minutes to full charge, but the transmission buffer will only hold for 1 shot. If it fails, it won't fail. Holt cut him off. The first custodian stepped into view, its armor gleaming like liquid obsidian, its face hidden behind that featureless mask. It didn't raise a weapon. Instead, it spoke, its voice carrying without amplification. "Dr. Vance, Captain Holt, this is unnecessary. End the attempt, and your lives will be spared." Holt fired without hesitation. The plasma bolt splashed harmlessly against the custodian's temporal shield, rippling the air around it. Behind it, more figures emerged, moving with the same cold precision. "They're stalling," Vance muttered, fingers flying over the alien interface. "They can't damage the relay without risking the signal chain. They'll try to take us alive." "Not happening," Holt replied, switching her weapon to overcharge. The custodians advanced in perfect formation. Holt ducked behind a crystalline pillar, firing in short, controlled bursts. The impact slowed them, but only slightly. Every time one staggered, another stepped forward to take its place. The monolith's hum rose to a near-painful pitch. "Signal. Ready," the AI announced. "Awaiting transmission authorization." Holt glanced over her shoulder. "Do it!" But Vance's hands hovered over the controls. On the alien display, the counter-signal's pattern glowed like a heartbeat. He realized something in that moment, a second option hidden in the system. Instead of overriding the custodian's message, he could send coordinates through time, to a point long before humanity had ever risen. Those coordinates could be directed to another species, one powerful enough to intervene early, altering history, so humanity never became the galactic threat the custodians feared. It would mean no human civilization at all, no Earth as they knew it, no Holt, no him, but it might mean the galaxy survived without ever needing genocide. "What are you waiting for?" Holt barked, still holding the custodians at bay. "If we overwrite their signal, we save us," Vance said, his voice urgent. "But if we send these coordinates instead, we prevent all of this. We erase the war before it starts." Holt's eyes narrowed. "You're talking about killing our entire species before it's even born." "I'm talking about preventing a future where we become worse than them," Vance shot back. The custodians were almost at the doorway now, their shadows spilling into the chamber. Holt's grip tightened on her weapon. "Send the counter-signal, Vance. Save the people who are alive now. We can't kill billions who haven't even existed yet." "And if saving them just delays the slaughter?" Vance demanded. The AI's voice cut in, flat and final. "Authorization required. Transmission window closing in 60 seconds. Holt backed toward him, firing in steady bursts. "Don't you dare play God." Vance looked down at the alien console. Two icons pulsed before him, one representing the counter-signal, the other the coordinate transmission. Behind him, the monolith's light flared as it reached maximum charge. Ahead, the custodians moved into the doorway, weapons now raised. 40 seconds. Holt stood between him and them, a human shield against an unstoppable future. "Vance, now." 30 seconds. Vance's fingers hovered. He could see both possibilities in his mind. The Earth he knew surviving, or being wiped away into something else entirely. In both futures, there was loss. In both, there was no guarantee of peace. 20 seconds. One of the custodians stepped forward, its voice almost gentle. "Choose wisely. Time will remember." 10 seconds. Vance made his choice. His hands moved in a blur over the console. The monolith erupted with light, flooding the chamber, erasing every shadow. The custodians froze mid-step, their forms blurring as though reality itself was reconsidering them. There was no sound, no explosion, just a sudden, infinite stillness. When the light faded, Vance was standing alone in the chamber. The doorway was empty. Holt was gone. The Eidolon was gone. The planet's sky beyond the shattered roof was different, lit by a sun that was not their sun, casting light over constellations he did not recognize. A faint voice echoed in his mind, the same one that had haunted them since the moon. But now it spoke with a different weight, almost a whisper of satisfaction. Your fate is sealed.